What about now? Can you guys hear us now? I know we were just saying that Monday after 4th of July weekend, it's hard to get back in the swing of things. Okay, I can hear myself, which means that you should be able to hear me as well. Let's go ahead and get started with that forecast. We're going to talk about that July 4th storm recap today. We had a lot of storms across the country on July 4th, from Chicago to Denver into Oklahoma City. A lot of things also canceled or delayed because of those storms. And we're going to talk about some of the biggest storms that we saw on Saturday. What about the severe risk for today and tomorrow as you get back into your work week? Well, we have a level 2 storm risk for today in the northern plains, another one for the northern plains tomorrow. Wednesday may be a day to keep an eye on because we start to include cities like Cheyenne and maybe even Denver in the storms for Wednesday. Very large hail, that'll be the main risk for today. So the most impressive risk will be up in the northern plains. So we're talking about northern Minnesota to North Dakota and South Dakota today. We do have a risk for Texarkana, mainly a wind risk, but a little bit of hail can't be ruled out. Do I see Dallas in the storm risk for tomorrow? Yes, you're correct. Dallas in the storm risk, mainly a wind risk in Dallas for tomorrow. And then we'll have better chances for larger hail anywhere from Minneapolis to Rapid City. As we head into Wednesday, that's whenever we start to see the eastern and central portion of Colorado start to become into the storm mix here, anywhere from Omaha all the way to close to Denver. We have a risk for storms. I do think that we have enough of a chance for storms in Denver to include them in the marginal risk in the coming days, but we still have a few days until we get there. Now let's go ahead and take a look at your weekend storm reports. What happened on July 4th? We had a lot of storms out there. Look at all of these storms that we started off the day with, and it just continued to soak Arkansas all day long. We had storms across the East Coast, delaying some of the most major firework events that we've seen in a very, very long time, or maybe even ever. And then we also had a very, very rare hailstorm in Connecticut, of all places. A 3-star hailstorm here, or 3-star hail map, rather, for this storm that came through Farmington. We saw some pretty decent hailstones. Actually, take a look at some of the pictures that we got from this area. You can see how large the hail was, and you can also see that we had a window cracked in this area. So we did get confirmed damage in this area for at least a few people, and then of course people holding their hailstones. Not something that you want to see on 4th of July as you're out and about hoping to get some sunshine. All right, let's go back to the maps here and talk about what happened later in the day. After that, while it was raining across a good portion of the U.S., really one of the most impressive storm systems was across Oklahoma. From Oklahoma City, where we got a decent amount of hail all the way through Stroud and up to Tulsa, right as those fireworks were about to start around dusk. That's when the storms came in. It was mainly a wind event for most of us, but it did knock out power. Some still without power to this day. We have some friends down in Norman here at HailTrace that say they're expecting power back on tomorrow. So that would be 3 days without power as temperatures are soaring into the 90s. Once again today, this is definitely not the time that you want to lose power. We currently have an on-go severe thunderstorm warning, so let's go to the present day. Present time, 2 severe thunderstorm warnings coming out of Columbia. Let me zoom back out so you guys can see where we're at here. Right in the middle of South Carolina. Information on the storm. I bet it's 60s and quarters. That's what we're watching for here. So up to quarter-size hail, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts are also possible with this severe thunderstorm warning. Another one here with some smaller hail as these storms become a little bit more crowded as we get to the northern portion of Columbia. So that's what we're seeing right now. That's the only warned storm in this area, but it is one area that we're watching for potential widespread severe weather today. Not too worried about hail in this area. Really, the main hail risk will be from some of these initial storms from North Dakota to South Dakota and into Minnesota. Grand Forks and Fargo, North Dakota have the best chances for storms today. Aberdeen, South Dakota, and Valentine, Nebraska could also see a little bit of hail today. Then it'll become a wind risk as we head into the evening hours as the storms move into some really big metros like Minneapolis. Heading down to Texarkana, Arkansas, and portions of Louisiana, that's a low hail risk. It's going to be more of a wind risk for these areas. You can see we've got a lot more yellow on the board here, increasing that risk for wind. Fargo, Grand Forks, Aberdeen also expected to get some strong wind gusts today. Strong wind gusts can be anywhere from 60 to maybe 75 miles an hour. Most of these storms will be your marginally severe thunderstorm warnings, just your classic summertime events. But every now and then you could get one of those stronger storms, especially from North Dakota to Minnesota, and that's where we're expecting a few tornadoes cannot be ruled out and your largest hailstones. Moving on, let's talk about the timeline here. Anywhere that you see bright yellow or even orange, that'll be your best chance for some large hail. So we've got some orange mixing in here, maybe up to baseball-sized hail from South Dakota to North Dakota. We kind of highlighted this area earlier. Your timeline for this should start after about 3 o'clock this afternoon. You've got your first few isolated supercells going up. The hail risk will be very minimal today. The hail timeline will be very short today. So we have a very short window for storms today before they linearize and then become more of a wind risk. So we talk about this a lot. If storms get too crowded, then it becomes more of a wind risk than a hail risk. Okay, so these first few storms, that will be your hail risk. And then after that, we're expecting more of a wind risk. Forecasted max hail size here, up to baseball size hail. I think that'll be very, very isolated this afternoon. Another round of, for your timeline here, again, you can see just how fast this starts to linearize, and you can see that long line of storms that we're expecting to form by about 8 o'clock tonight. Heather, do we have any weather questions before I move on to Tuesday for your storm risk? We're all good right now? Okay, perfect. So let's move on. What's happening across the nation? Well, we've got a high pressure system that's starting to set up across the four corners. And it's looking very, very impressive. This is taking hold of our weather over the next few days. And that's going to help to suppress storms as we head into the midweek. But we still have some little what we call short waves in here that could create some severe weather anywhere from Denver all the way into Iowa. So we'll have to keep an eye on that over the next few days. But this high pressure system really takes hold of our weather as we head into the weekend. I mean, look at this. Look how strong this is. This is often what you'll see on social media referred to as the death ridge. Basically what that means is it will kill all storms. Okay, your storm chances will be very, very low, maybe even on the mesoscale where they'll just be more like pop-up severe thunderstorms. Very, very difficult to forecast severe weather during this high pressure system whenever it takes over. So that's what we've got as we head into the next week. This will also cause some really warm temperatures. But before that, let's talk about Tuesday's storm risk. We have another round of storms that we're expecting as we head into Tuesday. You can see the best chance for larger hail will be anywhere from Rapid City to Valentine, Nebraska. That highlighted in orange. Largest hailstone for tomorrow, not terribly impressed by the risk tomorrow. Maybe up to baseball size hail. We'll see if we can get there. Maybe up to baseball size hail for tomorrow. And that's your severe risk for today. Wind event, wind and hail, but mostly wind, hail, and tornadoes possible. This is the main area to watch for today. Tomorrow, we move into Dallas, Minneapolis, and Rapid City, just barely skimming Cheyenne with the severe weather risk tomorrow. The main hail risk will be up to the north. You could see more of a wind risk anywhere from Dallas all the way to Shreveport, Louisiana. And then by Wednesday, we're starting to include Omaha, Rapid City, Minneapolis, and maybe even Denver in the storm risk. Denver missed out on severe weather on Saturday. We did think that you guys would get a chance for hail, but it just seemed to miss you. Tomorrow you can see that we've got a little bit of yellow trying to pop up here in the northern plains, but it stays pretty white down here in Dallas. What that means is we're going to see, if any, hail in Dallas, most likely very small hail, more of a wind event across Dallas for Tuesday. And there you go. There's your forecast for this week. It's a very, very classic summertime setup. Maybe a little bit more interesting on Wednesday. Take a look at this. We're starting to see a few storms lining up near Denver, maybe just to the east of Denver. That could change over the next few days, so make sure that you keep coming back for your forecast as we do see those changes. Now, in addition to hail, we've also seen a lot of wind over the last few days. Some very, very strong wind reports across the country. And to break down exactly why that's happening, we've got meteorologists.
Yeah, it has been a very windy past couple of not just weeks, but actually months. Throughout this entire year, we've had a lot of reports getting up towards 100, 120, 130 mile an hour wind gusts, and a lot of those have been caused by what we call microbursts. Now, these bursts are caused by an area of a cloud that starts getting pinched off by excuse me about that, a lot of dry air. What this dry air does is it causes evaporation of a lot of the cloud that is already in there, a lot of that moisture. And because of that thing called evaporative cooling causes this to get very cool, and eventually it goes down, eventually hits ground, and at that point in time can't go down any further. So it ends up blowing out in all directions with very, very aggressive wind speeds. Again, we've had reports already so far this year of seeing a lot of microbursts upwards toward 100, 110 miles an hour so far this year. And you might be thinking, well, hey, you know, they're not very common, are they? They actually pretty much are very common, actually, especially when you look nationwide. These microbursts, you actually see what it's a wet microburst right here moving across. This is actually parts of the west now. Meanwhile, a lot of effects can come out of these microbursts. You can get hail in these wet microbursts, but the biggest thing is wind. That's the one thing. And now we actually had some microbursts not too far away. We actually saw only around July 4th, we saw a microburst roll through. So let's take a look at that. This was over in Middletown, Maryland. Yeah, areas that haven't usually been, are a little bit rarer to see these storms, and well, they've been getting hit very hard the past couple of days. There it is right there, that little cell that moved through, and you're like, well, Martin, how can you tell if that's a microburst? Well, we look at this thing called velocity. Now, what we look for is basically, instead of like you look for a tornado as they're going toward each other, you look for them going away. So a lot of these greens that are starting to pop in here, that's what you look for in this sea of red. Look for these little greens right there. That right there is a handful of those microbursts that did occur, and they did see significant wind damage in Middletown, Maryland. This was actually from St. Thomas More Academy. They had a very large tree. This looks like a main tree branch off of a branch right here, probably about a foot wide at that base. Actually, no, look at that. That's a whole tree that went down. Wow, yeah, and a lot of damage was reported, had roofs that got peeled off in a lot of those areas. This was just July 4th, and we've had several microbursts already this year, not just in the East Coast, but we had some here in Oklahoma. We've had several across Texas. It's been feeling like we've had a lot of those so far this year, and we could possibly see more, especially as we get these cells that are by themselves, and we can get that dry air to get pulled into those clouds, and that's what causes the very moist air in these clouds to just essentially fall out of the cloud. That's essentially what happens. It just gets too heavy to support itself in the cloud and goes whoop down into the ground, and that's what causes that essentially an explosion of water and wind that these microbursts do cause. So it's been a very active past couple of days, and as Taylor was showing you, we'll be seeing more coming in pretty soon. So let's get back to that forecast.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. I appreciate that breakdown of microbursts, especially as we've seen a lot of very strong wind gusts across the nation over the last few weeks. Now, we will continue to see that. Now, we've got two different types of strong wind gusts. We've got straight line winds, and we've got microbursts. We've got a few more that we could see over the next few days as well. You know, strong tornadoes, we'll just see what happens. But strong wind, absolutely a hazard in the summer. We do see temperatures a little below average for the most part right now. That's going to change as that high pressure system sets in, and we are going to see a big spike in our temperatures across the nation. You're expecting, 90s in your area, maybe expect 95. If you often get the 80s this time of the year, maybe expect 85. We have a really good chance for temperatures to be above average as we head into the middle and end of this next week. And not only that, the middle of July is also looking pretty warm. We're looking at July 11th through the 15th, and we have a really good likelihood, or high likelihood, to be above average for the entire nation. No one is exempt from this heat wave you could call it, as we head into the middle of the month. What about our rainfall? Mostly dry for a good portion of the U.S. You know, this is the impact of a high pressure system. Oftentimes what comes with a high pressure system is clear skies, warm temperatures. I mean, think about all that sunshine you're getting, those temperatures skyrocket. But it's hard to get moisture in there whenever we've got a high pressure system taking hold of our weather pattern. Likely to be below average in terms of rainfall through most of the northern plains, portions of the Rockies, portions of the Midwest. However, you go down to the Gulf Coast and even portions of the Pacific and Atlantic coast, and you've got a pretty good chance to be above average in terms of rainfall. And that's a look for this week and for next week into your severe weather forecast. Keep an eye on Wednesday. I do think that Wednesday is the main day to watch for places like Cheyenne and Denver. Dallas, you could see a few storms tomorrow, so we'll be breaking that down for you in your severe weather forecast tomorrow. Make sure that you catch us every single day live at noon. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox. You heard from meteorologist Martin Larimore as well. Follow us as always on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, or give us a call for a hail, wind, or tornado map at 855-334-4245. We have multiple meteorologists that are always working here at HailTrace. So those storms that you see in South Carolina right now, they're watching that on a very detailed radar, ready to track any wind or hail that hits those areas. Give us a call at 855-334-4245 for a wind, hail, or tornado map. info@hailtrace.com or head over to our website, hailtrace.com. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you back here, same time, same place tomorrow.